and it's amazing to see friendly faces that I know. I might put on my sunglasses, well, it's not sunglasses, indoor glasses later if the sun, which is amazing in Brussels. But anyway, let's just keep them aside for now. Also, my microphone technique is somewhat not that great, so let me know if I need to speak louder. Awesome, so thanks so much for the introduction. I've been in augmented reality marketing for about 12 years as an AR producer and strategist working with predominantly retail brands in South Africa. And I've also been, if you can judge by my grey hair, a digital consultant for 27 years, where the big part of that I've been working with Google, alongside Google, and also using Google's marketing frameworks. And some of them I want to introduce you today and how they overlap with XR. So let's get going with the right button. There we go, cool. So essentially, what stands out for me with immersive campaigns is that it always looks beautiful, right? And it's got to do with the measurability of it that is sometimes not there. So how do we turn the immersive ideas that we have, that's great ideas, that are great concepts, but how do we turn it into marketing that brands can measure? So I've been using the Google frameworks for many years, and it's really kind of designed for teams to gain clarity around a concept and gain clarity before the campaign on how to measure it and actually share the same language, right? Because we find often that, like creatives have one kind of set of language and the client another set of language, and then you kind of get to the client sponsor, which is maybe like a more financial person with another set of language, and then how do we talk the same together? And then this playbook I want to share with you today is about how to have a repeatable process. So frameworks are there for a reason. It is there to kind of have a uniform way of applying the same strategy to your campaigns that are unique, but it's the same outcome and it's repeatable and measurable. Cool, so let's set some context. So like I mentioned, AR demos impress, right? And then someone in the room asks, but what's the return on investment? And then the room goes quiet a bit, right? So, and the reason is like most XR marketing campaigns are not linked to business outcomes, right? So, and because we lack that shared measurement language. Now, I want to do a quick pulse check in the room. So by a show of hands, who has done an XR marketing campaign this year? Okay, good. Keep your hands up if you have it linked to a live measurement dashboard. One hand. Okay, for those that kind of drop your hands, this is why we're here today, right? We want to close that measurement loop, that measurement gap. So the good news is we don't have to invent new metrics. We don't have to invent new measurement methodologies. We can actually link XR campaigns to the current marketing frameworks that exist. For example, the ones I'm going to introduce you today from Google. So these are proven frameworks that can map consumer behavior and that matches to your campaign. And it basically means that XR can become measurable because you're matching it to the consumer's intent. So let me introduce you to the 3 frameworks I use on a regular basis. The first framework that some of you might be familiar with is the See, Think, Do, Care framework. This was developed by an ex-Googler. And what is amazing about this is so simple. It kind of matches the consumer's mindset, right? So it starts with the see phase, the awareness, so people are there to kind of like explore and discover your brand. Then the think phase is where people try to start to explore around what you have to offer. Then the do phase is when you're ready for taking an action, right? So that conversion, right? And then the care phase is loyalty. So people love you so much they will come back. So this kind of this funnel, essentially, See, Think, Do, Care framework matches consumers' mindset that they're in, and it's our job to kind of match that mindset. So XR fits beautifully into the See, Think, Do, Care phase because every immersive campaign idea you might have can fit in one of those boxes. So whether it is the see phase, you're after awareness, you're actually after mass reach, So like TikTok effects, as an example, are great for this, for reaching like great reach. If you're in the think phase, it's going into the consumer's mindset of exploration, right? So dwell time, interaction time, and web AR, for example, is perfect for that. Then we're going into the do phase with action orientated. So that is where the call to action comes into your immersive campaign, whether it is a competition or a tap to buy. And what I do often in South Africa is to link that immersive experience call to action to continue the consumer journey, for example, in WhatsApp consumer journeys, just to make sure that there's not a dead end in the experience. We continue the journey. And then the care phase is loyalty. We actually want to see how can we encourage repeat use of the AR and repeat engagement of the consumer. And AR loyalty plays a great role there. Now, a quick pulse check for those that have put their hands up for running a campaign. Which part of this kind of mindset funnel have you targeted your campaigns? Who's done campaigns for mass awareness? Yeah? Campaigns for exploration? Yeah, good. Any kind of action-orientated campaigns? So. Loyalty campaigns? No? Well, good, thank you. So what I've kind of seen as well is like a lot of XR kind of strategists do campaigns in the first two phases, right? But the real return on investment lies if you actually unlock that lower part of the funnel and you actually engage people in the action and the loyalty phase. So my second framework is my favorite of all time. It's called micro moments. And this one is from Google. So it basically says this is the simplest way to match the consumer's intent that they're in that moment. So Google kind of defines it as intent-rich moments when someone turns to a device to know, to go, to do, or to buy. And if you think about it, that is exactly what we do with XR, right? We're turning to our devices. So what happens then for us now from an XR strategy perspective is to say, well, XR lives in one or more of these moments, right? And that helps us to meet people in the moment of their intent. So, for example, I want to know moments. It's like AR explainers. I want to go moments. It's like geolocation AR. I want to do moments, mini games, virtual try-ons, and I want to buy moments. There's a kind of call to actions. So you can see how it's just like beautiful connection with the consumer. Now, the real fun is when you overlay these two frameworks, right? When you overlay the consumer mindset and you overlay the consumer intent. And now you suddenly have a structured framework to plan your entire campaign. So you basically can say, well, you anchor your campaign objective in one of the see, think, do, care phases, and you anchor your content and your experience to the moment that the consumer is going to show up in. Ideally, you want to have at least one kind of connection point, but ideally you want to actually expand it across the full experience. So I've kind of built campaigns that goes all the way from see all the way through to care. Cool. Now, the third framework is my own. So after all these years of kind of producing campaigns, I kind of like looked at what's the best practice for me. That is the process behind all my campaigns. So I've kind of applied it as a repeatable process for everything that I've done. So I'm going to quickly pause on it and take you through each of the steps for the XR playbook. So the first one is brief on objectives, right? So you want to be able to, kind of look at the objectives, right? So before you even start touching any AR development, before you even start doing any 3D model development, you want to answer 4 key things. So what is your objective, right? The see, think, do, care phase. What is the micro moment you want to meet the consumer in? What is your call to action? And what does that primary success metric look like? That is even before you start doing anything. Then the next one is my personal favorite, is journey mapping. So many teams kind of create the AR and then they reverse engineer the journey, right? Versus I'm saying don't do that. So definitely before you build anything is understanding how's the consumer entering the immersive experience? What are they doing inside of the immersive experience? And how they're going to exit it, right? And then also then how you're going to repeat some behaviors. So literally sit with your teams and map that entire consumer journey. And then you decide the creative elements you need to create has a purpose. And you're going to see, well, what kind of immersive tech will make the best sense for that journey. So the next one is choosing the right tech, right, and then tracking. So I do a lot of campaigns across Web AR, Zappos, Mattercraft AR, and there's a native integration with Google Analytics. If you think about it, as a digital marketer, Google Analytics is the lifeblood of a campaign, right? That measurement gives you, it's the oxygen for a campaign. And having that embedded inside an immersive experience gives you full visibility of what's happening inside the experience. So it's super gold. Then obviously have tracking kind of codes for how people are getting to the immersive experience. Is it via QR codes? Is it via social links? Is it via a billboard, a particular ad, in-store, point of sale? Understanding all of those entry points, and then also look at what you have from the platforms themselves, right? So I use TikTok a lot, and obviously from Zappos' own platforms as well. But the idea here is to have visibility of everything. Then the campaign goes live, and often many teams think that's done, our work is done, right? But in actual fact, it starts. So the first 48 hours is so important for keeping track of all of those data and see what micro optimizations can you make in that first 48 hours in terms of maybe the ad copy you use in your call to action, or maybe the kind of load times you could maybe optimize a bit better. So the data will show you all of that entry points, what's the behavior inside the experience, and are people doing what you want them to do in terms of the call to action. So this is a super important part. Then when the campaign is done, this is where we're going to learn and scale. So we actually then go into like a post-campaign analysis environment to say, well, let's look at all the data. What has worked? What didn't work? What can we repeat? What can we do differently? And we actually start building benchmarks to say, well, how can we advocate for this project to become repeatable and scalable with the brand? And it's this kind of approach that will take a client's initial interest into AR and actually scale it into more and more campaigns and multi-market, multi-product campaigns. Okay, so I basically use all three frameworks together. So when I start a campaign, I kind of work with the client and the agency to understand what is the consumer intent, what is the consumer mindset, and then I back it with this repeatable process to make sure that I tick all the boxes for making basically a kick-ass campaign, right? So at the very end, then, we basically look at, what's that metrics that matter? And this comes back down to that question I asked in the beginning, like, do we have our campaign linked to a live measurement dashboard when it goes live? So as you can see, this entire approach has been very structured, right? It's a structured measurement map in front of us in terms of the phase, teasing to care, the metrics we want to get. Is it reach? Is it dwell time? What are we getting, and where are we getting the data from? Are we getting it from Google Analytics? Are we getting it from Zappos? Are we getting it from TikTok? And then that allows us to actually put it all into an automated dashboard, right? And that's the fuel that we need to kind of let our clients feel comfortable that the campaign is at hand. Now, frameworks are amazing, but results are better. So when I kind of take you through a campaign I've produced last year in South Africa, it was for a retail campaign. So it was for a new retail gaming app called WildSpace. The concept was around sending grannies into space, because that's what the world needs. And it looked very cool and very amazing. But we actually applied these three frameworks to this campaign, and we ended up winning a marketing award 2 months ago for it, for having it quite a tight strategy and results. So in terms of the experience, it started across in-store. You could scan the QR code, the back of a till slip. That took you to an engagement platform where you could do small little tasks. That unlocked the AR experience, and then we were able to re-engage them with additional competition mechanics, etc. But it was essentially a full funnel experience for the consumer. Now, this was powered by the frameworks, right? So you can see how we kind of mapped everything that I just showed you to the framework. So the install QR code was in the C phase, the gamified task in the think phase, the web AR unlock and downloading the app was in the do phase. And then the sharing mechanics of the experience with your friends and entering the additional competitions was in the care phase. We also mapped to 3 of the micro moments of meeting these AR characters, getting to that interactive AR reward, and redeeming and downloading the app. So that was the mapping to the micro moments. And then finally, we obviously backed it up with this repeatable framework for process, right? So we have a solid process from the beginning to the end by linking it to the objectives, the journey map, right? And as you can see, the idea here was to not just have a singular, very cool concept campaign and it lived in isolation. The idea is to have it as part of an experience, and there were no dead ends. And I think that's maybe one of the biggest takeouts I want to share with you, is not to create a dead end experience, right? And I've taken tracking using Zappar, and then we obviously optimized the messaging during the campaign, and we streamlined as much as we can. And then we built benchmarks, right, for the client to run future campaigns. From a results perspective, the key one for me really stands out is the number of interactions per user in the campaign. So once they actually enter the experience, they keep on tapping, they keep on replaying, they engage with the experience. And we saw about a 11-point kind of interaction per user versus, say, 3 to 6. So it really kind of met not only the kind of downloads of the KPI for the client, but also the engagement part of it. Now, what does this show us about how XR works, right? Is that the frameworks are not just theory, they do deliver results. It also, insights for us was that AR is best when it's part of a journey and not as a singular experience. It also showed us that measurement and the thoughtful part of measurement upfront help build the confidence with the client, and that these frameworks are actually repeatable and scalable for us all. So for you going back to your teams, it's really kind of how do you get started, right? So the simplest path is to kind of look at your next campaign and pick your consumer mindset, pick your consumer intent. See in your own process, what could you learn from maybe these kind of five steps that I just went through? Are there any gaps maybe? Is there anything you want to add? And then kind of choose the platform that fits, and then measure, learn, and repeat. Now, essentially, trying to make it a bit easy for everybody. If you could gain access to like a one-pager, it's got all the frameworks in there, all the explanations, all the checklists are in there. So you could, the QR code can give you access to that. You can take a picture of it and access it later. But it's essentially, what you could do is use it as part of a briefing session with your client. You could also use it as part of a planning session with your internal teams. You could use it to kind of measure a campaign that's currently running. Or if the campaign is already finished, you could use it as a diagnostic tool and see what can you learn from it for your next campaign. And then just to kind of leave you with the following, right, is that for me, what I've learned out of everything is great marketing is when you meet the consumer in their moment of intent. Right? There must be that connection. And these frameworks take the guesswork out of what you do. It kind of makes things simple, but the measurement makes it scalable. And it's essentially there for us to go and build measurable campaigns. Thank you.
Huge thanks to Johan there. I know I've got lots of questions. That was really, really fascinating, not least about AR grannies in space. But we do have 2 or 3 minutes just for other questions if anybody's got one.
Well, thank you for the very interesting presentation. I come from another industry, as you know, healthcare. But the frameworks are very similar when you are evaluating how to implement an XR project in healthcare, which is very interesting for me. I haven't seen it from the marketing side. And it's good that you have good results. Have you done any campaign for healthcare projects?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
But it's very encouraging to know that the frameworks is almost like a universal language, right? It's supposed to be simple and easy to understand, and it's supposed to be that easy that you can apply it cross industry. So thanks for that comment.